Item number 55. Amanda.
Request the mayor to authorize staff to develop a policy regarding invocation at city council meetings for presentation at the February 4th, 2013 city council meeting. And obviously that's today, so that's not going to happen. And I yield the floor.
Floor has been yielded. We'll go to Charity Doyle.
First of all, I want to say I have no intention of supporting a policy of any type being written or created on a reactionary basis because of this organization coming into our town and telling us what they wanted us to do. And I want to thank the people who stood up to make their comments, both for and against, because it does take a lot of courage to do that. I've been on that end as well. And even for those, or especially for those in the minority voice, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to stand up and speak what you believe when it's not always popular to do so. And I've been through that a time or two up here. I don't believe that this organization or any other organization should come in and try to legislate their beliefs. They don't live here. They don't work here. They don't know Rapid City. And it makes me mad. It really does make me mad. I don't think anybody appreciates a bully. And I believe that the people have spoken and they don't appreciate it either. But you know what really makes me mad is that we've spent a lot of money because staff hours are tax dollars. You guys have heard me say it before. We've already spent our valuable resources reacting to this outside organization coming in. And I don't really care what your personal beliefs are. I'm looking at it from a fiscal perspective. And so from the standpoint of investing more taxpayer dollars into creating a policy, again on a reactionary basis because this organization wants to tell us what to do, I completely disagree with that. And the way I look at it is we have general public comment on each and every agenda. Anybody can come and pray if they want to, say anything they want to us. General public comment, no holds barred. So I don't know what difference it makes in having an actual slot for an invocation because we know somebody's going to come up and offer a blessing to this meeting, or allow them to come during general public comment. I really don't see a difference. So again, I'm not going to entertain supporting a policy to deal with these types of organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Charity, and we'll go to Chad Lewis.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to continue the tradition as we currently practiced. If I get a second. Thank you, and I'd like to speak a little bit. You know, one thing, folks, I've said many times from this dais is one thing I ask for in my government, besides getting out of my way, is having a steady hand at the ship. I don't think that we have a long tradition in this city, and I'm not just talking about prayer before meetings. I'm talking about knee-jerk reactions to people stepping up and saying they don't like something, they don't like the way things are going. And so we've changed the entire way we're doing something just to accommodate a few loud people. I don't believe in that. It's not. To me, this isn't much about the religion as it is. What Alderman Doyle was just saying is I don't like being bullied. I teach my children not to be bullied. I teach them to step up and defend themselves. If someone is going to bully them, then you need to defend yourself, son. Their principal probably doesn't want to hear that, but you know, that's fine. I think that it's the right thing to do. I don't think it hurts anybody. I don't see where this is actually offending anybody. I think it's not bad to remind us to be humble up here. Remind us that we serve a higher purpose than just ourselves up here as our own individual selfish reasons for being on the council. I think that's a good thing. I think it's not a bad moment to pause and to reflect on that. So you don't have to pray at that time period, like Alderman Sasso has said. You can just sit and think about something else if you want to, but. And I would invite other religions and other faiths to step up and offer their prayers as well. I mean, this is a very diverse community. I think it's important we represent those views as well. But I think that to go ahead and when there's no lawsuit even pending at this point, and simply because of the threat of it, to say, well, we're going to change everything we do right now, I don't think that's the right. I don't think it's responsible as a government to do that, and I'm not going to support that. So I would like to make that. I made that motion. I really support us just continuing the way we've been going for now. I don't see us harmed anybody. And I appreciate all the speakers out there and all the support I've seen out there in this audience tonight, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad. Steve Laurenti.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could, I would like to ask the city attorney a question, if possible.
Go ahead.
Joel, if you could tell us what the benefits are of of having a policy. If you could just speak about that, because I know you have your memorandum here, and I'd just like to hear you. I'm sure everybody has read it, but I'd also like to have the community hear it as well, so that they understand that why this is, we're wanting to go with a policy to make it official. And then I'd like to maintain the floor if I could. Thank you.
Thank you. A policy would help in that we could put some simple guidance in place. Most of the research I've done, the policies do not direct what the person says. In fact, one of the ways you can be accused of establishment is if you tell people what they can say. So the policy wouldn't require telling people what to say. In fact, it would say more than likely that we would not direct what was said. It establishes that we are not attempting to establish an official religion, things like that. And it's just a policy statement, I think, would assist us if this group ever did decide to litigate. Most communities that do continue having invocation that have faced this, I believe they do adopt a policy. We've begun pulling policies from various communities and looking at those and the case law and comparing them. So anything we write hopefully will help us in legal defense if we were sued for continuing the invocation tradition.
Thank you, Joel. And I would hope that, I can't support the current motion on the floor, the amendment. And I would hope that my fellow councilman, Mr. Lewis, think about the words that he just said, that he teaches his kids not to be bullied, that they need to learn how to defend themselves. That's what part of this policy that you just heard does. It helps us defend ourselves. And I made the motion at the Legal and Finance meeting to direct staff at the behest of the mayor on this policy, because we do need to defend ourselves, because there are people who want to see these rights, inalienable rights. And what does inalienable mean? It means that the possessor cannot take them, cannot give them away. Well, I suppose if you believe the possessor is God, then he can surely take them away. So not only are they inalienable, but they're fundamental. And that means they don't come from man. In this country was founded on the creation of this country, of this earth, by God. These rights that we have, this freedom of religion, doesn't come from man. If you believe that, then it can be taken away. But I am a confirmed Christian, and it is my duty to defend the right to exercise my religion, not only for myself, but for everyone who believes that this country was founded under God. And that has been a tradition since the very founding of this country. Now, there are those who would like to see us have a moment of silence. You heard a little bit about that tonight. But let me tell you what a moment of silence does. It immediately takes away the free exercise thereof. It violates the Constitution immediately. Because if I'm sitting in silence and I'd like to stand up and say something instead to exercise my freedom of religion, wouldn't I be then breaking that very moment of silence? Because what they really want, ladies and gentlemen, is conformity. They want us to conform to a way that they would like us to see, that they would like to see on how we express our freedom of religion. That's not freedom, and it's not the free exercise thereof. And so I will fight. I will fight to ensure that this city has a policy. One, because we are defending ourselves from what will come, the bully. And they're trying in all corners of our country. And I have to say, I spoke to a constituent, I believe it was Sunday. Yes, it was Sunday. What a great day for it, actually, now that I think about it. But it was at a meeting because I'm sponsoring one of my junior in my son's high school for confirmation. and that's where he said, Steve, he said, you got to stand up. You got to stand up for this policy. You got to make sure the city continues this prayer. He said, don't worry about the fiscal part of it. And you just heard some of our council people talk about the fiscal part of it, which amazes me, because we all swear to defend the Constitution. Well, the First Amendment is part of that Constitution, if I'm right, and I think a lot of us repeated it multiple times. This is not about a fiscal problem. This is not about the fiscal stress. This is about maintaining one of the core rights given to us by God, not by man, not by our founders. Our founders knew where it came from. That's why they did what they did. And getting back to that constituent, he said, Steve, don't worry about it. He said, I can guarantee you, because I will be one of them, but there will be at least, you'll easily find 100 people that will give $1,000 to create a $100,000 defense fund. Then I went even further. I started thinking to myself, well, yeah, he's probably right. That would be easy, probably, to find 100 people in this town to give $100,000 each to create a $100,000 defense fund. But I think it would be even easier to find 1,000 people to give $100. But I think it might even be easier if 100,000, I think we could find 100,000 people, at least around this area, including just about every man, woman, and child in Rapid City, to give $1 to come up with a $100,000 defense fund. And so I will not sit back. I have an absolute duty as a confirmed Christian, and I will not deny him, because ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, what I truly believe, and I don't mean this as a joke, but it's going to come off that way, I'm going to leave tonight, and I will not deny him here. I have to go out in that parking lot tonight, so who knows, right? And I'm not going to deny him here. And I will not deny him at any time in my life, whether it's popular or not. This is not about popularity. This is about doing what's right, not only as a devout Christian, but as a duly elected official who swore to defend the Constitution of the United States. And I will not shirk that responsibility. Thank you.
Actually, let's go to our city attorney, Joel Landy.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on the motion on the floor, this might not be relevant, but if you decide to proceed with having me direct a policy, I had originally hoped that we could have something fairly quickly, but I was discussing it further with council members and the mayor. I think it's important that we take sufficient time on this. So I would ask that it not be brought forward on the next agenda, but that I'd be given probably 30 days to get something together. We've already started working on research, actually drafting it, get some additional time. Thank you.
And Joel, just so everybody is on the same page, the policy would not include reference or requirement for a non-sectarian prayer.
I haven't decided yet. Ultimately, that would be up to the council what the language is. Some policies have that, some don't. One I'm looking at does not. Again, what I want to do more research on is this whole concept of that you do not specify what can be said or not said, that you just kind of leave that alone, that is up to the person doing the invocation.
Thank you, Joel. Bonnie Peterson.
My magic's not working. Thank you. I'd make a substitute motion that we direct Joel to bring us back a policy and allow him up to 6 weeks. Okay, thank you. The reason I'm doing that is, like Mr. Laurenti said, is that we need to be able to defend ourselves, and we need to know more about what the law says. I feel that everyone relationship with God is personal, whether they believe in the God of the Bible or they believe in the spirit of the universe or, whatever they believe. I believe everybody has their own unique spiritual selves, and I do believe that those have to be honored. And of course, we live in a majority of people that believe in the Bible. And so obviously that's what this council needs to stand for, because it is by far the majority. We talked about money because that's what it's going to boil down to, and we talked about bullying. And I can tell you that in executive session, we're faced with lots of bullying lawsuits. And so sometimes it's hard to know exactly what to do. But on this particular one, if it comes, we know more what to do. But at what price? I can't say. 100,000, yes, but 500,000, that would certainly get my attention thinking something else. I've had several people talk about bringing money to, to help support, and also I think Mr. Fisher mentioned there's some kind of group that helps municipal communities to fight these kind of things. And so we need to learn more about that. And also, we don't know what kind of compromise is coming. Is the compromise that we say the grace before the official start of the council? I mean, we don't really know what the attorney's going to come back with. So I hope that you will also be willing to say that maybe we don't do it exactly the way we do it now. Or like Ms. Doyle said, that anyone can come up and say a blessing during the public hearing time. There's no, that's not against the rules. So I concur with Mr. Laurenti. I'm not so, I know what the Constitution says, and on the surface of it, it says that this right is freedom of religion is protected. We'd like to think it's in all situations. But it's just like our own code of conduct on the council. You think it's very clear about what it says, but when you start looking at the whole picture of the law, it's not so clear. So I appreciate y'all coming, and I hope when we come this back in 6 weeks that you will have read it and decided like where you can give and where you can't give, so that we have a better idea of how best to serve you. And also I want to tell the people that spoke out against the majority that is, I admire you, because that is the hardest thing to do, is to stand on what you believe when you're in the minority. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. And we'll go to Ron Sassel.
Thank you, Mayor. I know I won't compromise our First Amendment in any way, shape, or form. I am a Christian. I am proud to be a Christian. And at the same time, I also know faith is something that's very personal. I do respect and understand differences, and I particularly appreciate the young School of Mines man who was very eloquent in what you said. And at the same time, I pray up here repeatedly, and I feel that I do. And at the same time, I also feel that the invocation and a prayer, non-sectarian, I don't believe in having it watered down. I believe that I believe a policy that is nondescript is good. And I know that the people who have been coming have been volunteering their time. They're not paid chaplains for us. We're not paying them to come here. They're volunteering their time. And I think our citizens and the makeup of our area is predominantly Christian, and at the same time, over the years, not every invocation has been Christian. And I think if you go through our history, it has not been. But I appreciate every single one that is. And I respect the diversity of those who disagree. But I do agree that we should have a policy in place as a preventative measure from any lawsuit, but I will not compromise in what we can and can't do on that. That is something I feel strongly about. So, God bless.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a person of simplicity. I like to keep things as simple as possible, and my concern is putting together a policy will only complicate things. I believe that the Constitution has given us freedoms. I very strongly feel that it has given us the choice. These choices are available to us. And that's the simplicity that I appreciate that we have with the Constitution in allowing us to have all of these freedoms. And now we're attempting to make it more complicated. I think that is going in the wrong direction when we have a good, solid tradition of having invocations already in place. I would also make the suggestion that if anybody feels like they need to make their presence known, not only during the invocation, but as Alderwoman Doyle suggests, is that we can make this open to the public in the open public comments in that section. If there's any denomination feels like they're being left out, and I can think of a couple of them that we, in my short term of being in office, I have not heard a prayer from them, and I would like to hear them being offered up. So I would like to encourage those denominations that have not had that opportunity to come forward and give us part of that invocation to make a suggestion or call the mayor's office about that, to give that invocation, have that opportunity for that invocation. I'm definitely on your side, but my concern is the policy will make things complicated, and I'm not complicated. I don't like things that are complicated. Thank you.
Bill Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to disagree with Alderman Nordstrom. I'm sorry, and not because I'm complicated, but you know, Richie, as a former military guy, you know when somebody rises against you, have a plan. And I think having this policy is having a plan. I came tonight with some prepared statements, but as is typical, other people speak, other people cover what you thought you were going to say. You hear things that just move you in a different direction. And forgive me if this is just a little bit disjointed. To the gentleman from School of Mines, and I'm sorry I forgot your name. I was trying to write down names as people spoke. Cole, you're articulate and you're brave. You have my admiration for being able to stand there tonight and say what you did. It reminds me of a story, two, as a matter of fact. One of my dearest friends in this town, State Representative Don Kopp. For those of you who don't know him personally, if you have a personal relationship with Don, he's Pete Kopp. I've always known Don as Pete. A little confusing, and I don't even know the story behind the two names. What most people don't know about Don Kopp, my friend Pete, is that he grew up in a Bible preaching household. His mother, Marcy, was just a wonderful, wonderful lady. And Pete, in his younger years, thought he was an atheist, and in his atheistic views set out to disprove the Bible using science. And the harder he tried to disprove the Bible using science, the more he found that the Bible proved science. I will say this: Christianity is not a religion, and And I see laughter, but it's okay. You know, I was young once too. And as we grow older and we're exposed to things in this life, wisdom, I always say, comes with gray hair. And if you don't have any gray hair, you're too young to have wisdom. Now, Christianity is not a religion of exclusion. Anybody who's been around any Bible preaching is familiar with John 3:16. God gave his only beloved Son, that whosoever shall believe in him should not perish but have everlasting life. It is God's will that nobody perish. Nobody is excluded. And all of us have heard, love the sinner, hate the sin. The Bible is replete with instructions. Our laws of our land come from the Bible. It's frightening to think how lawless this land might be were we not to have the guidance given in that book. I remember a discussion with my son who said, I hate all these rules. And he had some terrible examples as a youngster of what was wrong with the rules. And I said, well, if there's no rules, then that means I can choose to do whatever I please. How about if I don't like driving in traffic, I'll just drive down the sidewalk? And he said, Dad, that's crazy. You can't do that. I said, you said no rules. We have to have rules. And the rules, like it or not, come from that book we call the Bible. I agree that we need a plan. And I look forward to giving our city attorney the time to put together that plan so that we can move forward and continue in the vein we have been and continue with Invocation. I thank all of you for being here tonight.
Amanda Scott.
Thank you. One of the reasons that I am for allowing the mayor to authorize staff to bring forth a policy is for consideration. Just because we're asking staff to bring forth a policy doesn't mean we're going to adopt it. As our city attorney has already explained, he is researching this. This is brand new territory for us. We have a long-standing tradition. I believe our community is made up of mostly Christians, but there are different sects in our community that practice different beliefs, but we welcome them with open arms. As it's already been stated, I don't want to repeat a lot of things up here. We have open forums that anybody can speak, including prayers, during our public comments. And just want to point out to everybody, even if we were to adopt a policy, does not mean that someone's not going to sue us. Litigation is prevalent in today's world, unfortunately. So I don't think many people on the city council need to really worry about whether we're going to get sued or not. We need to represent the will of the people. That's our job. So looking at a policy being brought forth just gives us information to consider whether we want to adopt a policy. That hurdle is still before us. As the current motion on the table, it's 6 weeks out. And I would welcome all of you to come back. Let's all take a look at it, because we do serve the will of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And I'm going to pass the gavel to Bonnie. I'd like to make a few comments regarding this. Pauline, would you put the oath of office up on the projector? I'd like to say is, first of all, I want to thank everyone for the overwhelming support that we've received in recent days on this matter. I don't recall receiving this much feedback on any issue in recent memory. This issue is not only big, it is bigger than Rapid City. The state legislature has opened with prayer since the days before 1889, when South Dakota became a state. Our First Lady of South Dakota, I recently heard her offer a heartfelt prayer at a tourism conference in Pierre. This last Saturday, I was at the deployment of the 235th at Stevens High School, a National Guard-sponsored event, and the chaplain got up and gave a heartfelt prayer. And the people that we said goodbye to for hopefully a short time are now on their way to Afghanistan, where they are willing to put their lives on the line for us, so we have the right to continue to pray in the public square if we so choose. I encourage you to do a Bing or a Google search on this group, Freedom from Religion Foundation. Their goal isn't to simply amend the process of prayer at council meetings, it is, and in the public square. It is to end it altogether. And their goal also is to remove "In God We Trust" from our money and our coinage, and to remove "Under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance. You can find it in 0.8 seconds on Bing or Google. Last week I talked to Bob Connect, who was a city council member on our city council in 1960 and 61. And he is the oldest living council member I can find, and he's almost 88 years young. I admire him greatly, and he said that it was a time-honored and cherished tradition at that time. We don't know how long it's been established or part of our process, but I believe that it goes back much further than that, perhaps all the way back to 1882. I talked to Don Barnett, who was our mayor during one of the most troubled and anguished times in our city's history, 1971 to 75, who said that every meeting, even during the flood, during the darkest days of our community, that they offered a prayer before the council meeting. I want to show this to you. This is the booklet from the Remembrance and Renewal commemoration that we had last summer at the Civic Center. Now, this was a public-private partnership. The mayor and council, we appointed a committee, people from all walks of life, and including a lot of flood survivors, to help with this commemoration. Many of the funds for this event were donated, but the taxpayers did participate in the sense of the theater space and some of the expenses relating to that. It was mostly privately funded, but there was some public participation. I want to go to page number 12 of this booklet. And I want to read the words of Dan Simpson, who lost his young wife in the flood just a few weeks after they were married. And he says, "The Lord was with me that night. He was with me as Claudia and I exchanged our last glance as I left the house to rescue 3 boys. He was with me in the water. He was with me on the roof. I know without a doubt he was with Claudia, and Claudia is with him." The statement in this book would be just as offensive to the Freedom from Religion Foundation as offering a prayer at the beginning of the council meeting. If we capitulate on this, they will come after the Pledge of Allegiance next. They will come after the oath of office that says, "So help me God." Adopting an ordinance or a resolution, and by the way, I do not support any ordinance or resolution that would require a non-sectarian prayer, but simply bringing forward an ordinance or resolution that, because when we looked into the history of this, we found that it's a tradition. It's an important tradition, but it's a tradition, and it's not in ordinance or statute anywhere in the city of Rapid City. So it's important, I believe, to at least explore the idea of a policy that makes it clear that the citizens of Rapid City, through their elected officials, the mayor and city council, through 2 ordinance readings or a resolution, which will then be referable to a public vote, wants to continue with prayer at the council meetings. And I think Bonnie's motion is a good motion. I think if somebody amended it to say, let's take a year to study it and we'll continue as is while it's being looked at, that would be fine with me too. I think it's important also to know that once we do adopt the policy, or either way, the battle lines will have been drawn and we may see a legal fight. Joel has confirmed that we can accept private funds and resources for a lawsuit, and we will be asking for help from the public. Based on my conversations with our constituents over the weekend, I think we could raise $100,000 in 5 minutes for this fight. And I And I am asking the citizens of this community and this council to all stand together. There's been a lot of dissension lately. There's been a lot of issues that have come up. But you know what? We have a common purpose, and our common purpose is to serve our community. And if we change this long-standing practice and try to compromise this freedom of foundation, this group will just come after something else next. They'll come after our oath of office. They'll come after the Pledge of Allegiance, and they will come after the other cherished traditions that we have. And so I think it's important that we stand firm and we stand tall, and I support the idea of exploring a policy. You know what, we may not like it, but at least we can say, hey, we are exploring a policy. Let's take our sweet time. I'm not in any rush, and we're not going to change our processes while we do it. I also want to address the concern that has been brought forward of the diversity of the prayers. We've had Jewish prayers, we've had Native American prayers, and one of the complaints that I heard in recent days is that a lot of the prayers that we have are offered in our council chambers are predominantly evangelical or Catholic. Well, we're a reflection of our community, but we certainly have made an effort and will continue to make an effort to have diversity in our prayers. So thank you very much for the discussion, and I wouldn't mind seeing an amendment to the motion to take more time to look at this and continue the practice as is while the policy is being looked at. But I don't look at the policy as changing our practice. I look at the policy as, and I want to be very clear about this, I look at the policy as an opportunity for the citizens of this community through their elected representatives to say, we want to continue this practice. Because that in and of itself shows that this is a community value judgment, and that we want to continue this. Thank you very much for the discussion. And we'll go to John Roberts.
I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. He must have known I was going to say the exact same thing. That's why he skipped over me. So I do think this is very important that we take this to a policy. I think that we need to show the people of Rapid City what kind of people, or we need to show these people in Minnesota that are trying to force this down our throat, what kind of people we are in Rapid City. What's that? Wisconsin. Oh, Wisconsin. Whatever. California. Who knows? Wherever. We as predominantly Christians in this area, and I know me growing up in Rapid City, it's hard not to be a Christian. I've got a brother that's a minister, a cousin that's a minister, and many, many, many friends that are ministers. And we cannot let somebody else from anywhere dictate what we are going to do in Rapid City. This is an important issue. This is an issue that's been, we've been praying for our legislators within this country for at least the last 238 years. So it's a tradition that we have to keep going. Our moral values in this country have declined so much in the last 20 years. I can't imagine what my children are going to have to put up with, my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren in 20, 30, 40 years. So this is an important issue. I'm very excited about the people that came forward on this. I know that the majority of you that got a hold of me, I got back to today. A few of you I'm sure I missed, and I apologize for that. But this is an issue that we cannot let go. We need to keep the prayer in the council. Thank you.
Charity Doyle.
Thank you once again, Mayor. And I want to say that I agree with what you said. I really do. You said it very eloquently, and I think that some of the things I said were, once again, misunderstood up here. Many of you who watch us on a frequent basis see us react to one isolated situation. We create policy for one person, one thing. And I see this as no different. An organization coming in from outside and threatening something. Are we just going to move? Where do we draw the line? Like the mayor said, most likely there's a chance they could come after the Pledge of Allegiance. They could come after us for our oath of office. Where do we draw the line? Are we going to throw staff resources into creating policy for a bunch of what-if scenarios? Because I'm sure we could probably have half a dozen full-time city attorneys creating policy for what-if situations. And I think that the people want the city to be proactive. They want us to stand for what we believe in and not have that knee-jerk rush all the resources into another area just to try to appease. And like Ms. Scott said, a policy is not going to protect us or prevent this lawsuit. So I don't fear it. I did want to call Mr. Blanc up again. Okay. I kind of thought that's what you were going to say.
Influenced by that on, hey, there we go. We have a sound man at church that does the same thing, that knows that he can turn my sound down, so I have to treat him right. So I guess it's that booth over there. Be nice to that guy. What I mentioned in my email to you this afternoon is that there are, the monetary thing shouldn't be a consideration for this reason, that well-established and seasoned national organizations like the American Center for Law and Justice, you see those guys on TV all the time, that's Jay Sekulow, and the Alliance Defending Freedom Foundation and the Liberty Council will accept these First Amendment cases pro bono, meaning that there will be no costs to the citizens or to the city at all in doing that. And apparently this has already received, the little Rapid City in the middle of the country has already received some national exposure. And from what I understand, there is at least one letter of intent to possibly represent us, and maybe if the city attorney was here, he could speak to that. But just for your information, that is a possibility. So I just want to encourage you that that Rapid City has a reputation for standing for faith, family, and freedom, and I think that you can be very, very courageous. I'm so proud of all of you standing up and just say we're just not going to be bullied. So we commend you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. And I guess from my viewpoint, the laws already exist. The Supreme Court's already ruled on it. What are they going to do? How's our policy going to trump that? I don't know. I guess if we have to look at something, I'll look at something. But I don't see that this body needs to rush and expend tax dollars to create a new policy every time there's a potential threat. If they sue us, they sue us. We'll have representation. I think we'll come out okay. It's already been determined. So I'm not afraid. Let's go.
Richie.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of points. Alderwoman Scott made a compelling argument, and Mayor, you also made a compelling argument about let's take a slow look at this policy. And it doesn't necessarily we're going to adopt it, but I'm okay with that. Again, it comes back to being, to me, as Alderwoman Doyle already suggested, that we already have these freedoms that are given to us. And to put more complicated policy in place is redundant, and as been stated before, I don't see it trumping anything, but I will take a look at the policy that is generated. But I do want to ask a couple of questions, though, and whoever wants to answer these questions certainly may. There was mention of Ben Franklin making a prayer in front of the Constitutional Congress. And then also, did he have a policy in place? Did he need a policy to put that in place, to offer a prayer? Does our state legislature have a policy in place to allow them to do a prayer? Those are a couple of questions I need to ask. And then to the young folks that had the opportunity to come forward and present their points of view, thank you for that point of view that you gave us. And I'm sorry that you had to be mocked for making us smile on some comments that were made earlier. I felt that you folks were discounted. And I think that was unfortunate. Your points of view should be noted, should be taken with some value. Not that you're second-class citizens. In my mind, you're not second-class citizens. And you have your wisdom of some kind somewhere that I haven't had the opportunity to be exposed to. I want to thank you for that wisdom that you presented to us tonight. And I want to just say it's just unfortunate that you were mocked. Thank you.
Chad Lewis.
Didn't want to be the last one to jump in twice. No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm supporting on folks. I'm not going to be able to support this motion. I think my original motion to continue the procedures we currently have it is what I want to stand with. I think there's no need for a policy to waste staff time searching down something we already know how we're going to stand anyway. I mean, this is low-hanging fruit, I think, for this organization to come after the city of Rapid City. They're not going after the state of South Dakota. They're not going after the U.S. Congress. And I think that, there's no reason for us to be. I won't be bullied. I just won't. I'm not going to compromise on this, so forget it. I'm sorry. I'll be voting against this motion.
Amanda.
Thank you. Call the question.
Question's been called. Any objections to calling the question? If there's no objections to calling the question, we'll proceed directly to the vote. Charlene, could you read the motion back for us?
The substitute motion on the floor is to have the policy returned to the council in 6 weeks, which would be March 18th.
To Legal and Finance.
In
This is
6
to a
weeks,
Legal
it
and
would be the
Finance
March
meeting.
18th council, it would be the March 13th Legal and Finance.
Okay. And that's okay with the seconder? So this will be coming back for consideration at the March 13 Legal and Finance meeting and the March 18 council meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Here. Roll call, please.
Scott. Peterson. Doyle. Lewis. Roberts. Lorente. Sasso. Clayton. Nordstrom.
Aye.
6-3. Motion carries.
We're going to take a brief recess and we'll come back at 25 to 10, 15 minutes.